Today I'm going to show you how to use Opening the Energy Gates of Your Body by Bruce Frantzis as the cornerstone of your Qigong practice. Now, to me, this is the textbook that we use at Brookline Tai Chi. It's one of the best how-to books out there on Qigong, and it has a lot, the new edition especially, has a lot of interesting stuff. It has great background on Qigong theory, an interesting explanation of how breath and Qi work together. So a lot of people come to Qigong thinking it's basically a breathing exercise, and it's a lot more than that. So this kind of handles that explanation very nicely. And then the meat of it is a how-to about doing the energy gate set. And energy gates, as a set, energy gates refer to specific gates that run through the body that you can open to have better energy flow. And traditionally, the set itself is made up of 6 exercises. A standing Qigong exercise where you go head to toe, opening the gates and opening the energy pathways. Cloud hands, which is a moving exercise, turning side to side, that tends to circulate your energy. 3 swings that go in order and build sort of your energetic foundation and the internal connections of the body up from the ground and all the way up through the upper internal organs, upper burner. And a Taoist spine stretch exercise, which is a pretty interesting and unique way of releasing the spine and relaxing the nervous system. Today, though, I want to show you probably how to throw out 90% of what's in this book and the most important stuff to focus on if you're trying to do this without a teacher, as a reference point, and the cornerstone of your practice. So, rule number 1, you are not going to do the swings. If you look at these exercises, you look at the 3 swings in here, the pivoting and turning that you need to do in these swings, if you're on your own trying to do it, you're going to completely mess yourself up. So rule number 1, no swings. Rule number 2, this is called opening the energy gates, but I don't want you to go anywhere near the gates. So no swings, no gates. Rule number 3, you're not going to think about dissolving it all. The whole outer dissolving process is described here, but you're not going to touch it. Instead, what you are going to focus on are the 4 most important pages in this book. Okay? This chapter on syncing your Qi is the most important thing you can learn in this book. Syncing your Qi, what that means is you begin to familiarize yourself with the internal landscape of your body. And you get it to a point, you get your ability to put your mind inside your body to a point where you start to stimulate much stronger fluid flow throughout any part of the body that you're focusing on. So the process that's detailed in here is a head-to-toe process that sort of gets everything moving downward through the body, which is great for a whole number of other reasons that we'll get into later on. But when you learn to sync your Qi through the body, you literally go through and hang out height by height, head to toe, in a way that helps everything focus there and concentrate there. So you want to get into the more subtle, more refined practices down the line. If you don't spend enough time syncing at first, you're not going to have the capacity to do it. So syncing your Qi, I think, for my money, and teaching hundreds of people how to do this, is the most important thing, most important step in this book. The next thing that I think you can learn from the book here that's going to be really useful is to go through the cloud hands exercise. Now, cloud hands involves shifting, turning, and moving, twisting the limbs, right? So you stand in place. You may be familiar with cloud hands from the Tai Chi set, but it's shifting and turning. They're not really, obviously not moving that much here, but this arm posture, the arms are going up to down, right? You're turning the waist, and you're shifting the weight. That standing exercise, even though you're not stepping, does about 80% of what any Tai Chi exercise will do for you, right? Shifting, turning, and twisting. It doesn't have stepping. It's not like cloud hands in the Tai Chi form where you're moving, but it's similar. So it helps you organize a lot of the internal connections while you're moving. So you go from standing to moving, and then the unique part of this set, for my money, is the spine stretch, the Taoist spine stretch at the end. Now, it tends to look like a lot of other back stretches, but where it's really different is that you're working to get yourself more and more sensitive to the different segments of the spine. And in a unique Qigong way, you're interested in how the energy of the spine, or the spine itself, gets more connected to the legs. So you're not trying to just create movement in the spine, you're trying to get it to flow through the legs as well. And here's the thing, when you go to practice cloud hands and the spine stretch, there's a really clear progression laid out in the book. But you, instead of taking that linear approach, need to take a circular approach to learning it. Here's what I mean by a circular approach. Go through and you'll see stuff like how the knees align with the feet, how to isolate and turn from the hip joint, how to continuously turn the arms. If you look at those one after another, that's a linear approach to learning. That's okay, but I would rather that you move fairly quickly through those isolated pieces. Try to feel the connection from the knee to the foot. Great, but as quickly as you can, learn the whole movement. But that's not it. A lot of people do that. They move quickly through step A, B, C, and then just get to the whole, D, and do the whole again and again and again. If you really want to learn this stuff, D is not the last step. What you do, once you have the whole and you understand the context that you're working in, you have to cycle back to the beginning and relearn all those alignments again. So you have two kinds of people here. You have the really direct, really linear person who only ever does step A and never gets to step B. And you have the person that speeds through the first 3 or 4 steps and never looks back. Don't be either of those practice types. What you want to do is go through, familiarize yourself with each piece as quickly as you can, and then cycle back once you have a sense of the whole. If you do that, and you do the same thing with the spine stretch, you do that, what you start to understand is that the leading edge of your practice always has a linear learning component to it. There's always one thing in your practice set that you're focusing on in a very minute way. That's a given. Nobody ever breaks out of that. That's what learning is. So you're always going to have something that you focus on really, really narrowly. But if you have also taken a step away from that and switched mindsets and changed mode of practice and gone for the whole and tried to see what the whole was about, it makes a lot more sense, and I think you get a lot more out of coming back to the narrow focus again. So the best way to use this book, let me recap: skip the swings, skip dissolving, and skip the gates. You get into this really silly head trip if you're visualizing gates as you go through the body. Instead, what you want to focus on is learning how to feel inside the body, and that will naturally start the process of syncing your chi. You don't have to be thinking about syncing. You just start feeling, and that'll begin the syncing process. Learn systematically how to do cloud hands and how to do the spine stretch. And when you tie those 3 together, standing, cloud hands, spine stretch, you'll have a pretty complete Qigong set to practice. So get this book. If you don't have anybody near you, you can get pretty far just working out of the lessons in this book. And that's how you put a Qigong practice together.